I want to talk about the earthquake that just struck Indonesia, hit the island of Sulawesi, and greatly impacted the entire island, especially Palu City. So we're going to start here. This happened September 28th, 2018, the day after the Jesuit order's birthday. September 28th, 18, the day of the earthquake, was a date with 55 numerology. And this is a very familiar pattern that we follow with the history of earthquakes by the numbers. If you've not read my book, Letters and Numbers, there's a chapter called Weather Warfare, and in that chapter I discuss suspicious earthquakes throughout history. We're going to look at a portion of the chapter of that book and compare what I wrote in there, which released in March of this year, with this incident here. So September 28th, 18, a date with 55 numerology. In the language of gematria, earthquake sums to 55. So it was a fitting date in numerology terms for an earthquake. What's even more concerning is this. In gematria, earthquake also sums to 107. So does military. By the way, military sums to 55 as well, which I should have put up here. But in the same cipher, military is 55. Earthquake 107, military 107, Palu City 107, Sulawesi 107. 107 is also the 28th prime number. Sulawesi also has gematria of 28, as does quake, numbers that go together. So, with the 107s on the brain, I want to go back to this part of my book. The only earthquake ever captured on live television happened during the World Series, the Bay Area World Series, the Oakland Athletics versus the San Francisco Giants. And the last thing shown on TV before the earthquake began was an instant replay from the game prior of Jose Canseco crossing home plate. This is why it's so interesting that Jose Canseco was the last thing shown on television before the screen began to shake and the broadcast cut out. Jose Canseco was born Jose Canseco Capas Jr., gematria of 107. His birthday was July 2nd, exactly 107 days before the earthquake happened. His name 107, 107 days before the earthquake began, he celebrated his birthday. You just got to ask right there, what are the odds? Not only does his name have gematria of 107, it also has gematria of 55. Same numbers encoded into earthquakes. Same numbers we're talking about in this event, and the same numbers we've talked about many times before in regards to these suspicious and devastating earthquakes. It's not only that they said, or that the earthquake came 107 days after his birthday and he was the last person shown on the screen. The other thing about this earthquake is it happened at 5:04 p.m. 5:04. And this happened during a baseball game. Baseball has that gematria of 54 in two of the base ciphers. So it just goes to show how exact these planned and coordinated earthquakes can be. And yes, these are being done intentionally as ritual by very sick people. You have to understand the people who control this technology are the same people who control the central banks. And anytime there's destruction in this world, the central bankers profit because they're the ones that are there to lend the money for the aid, for the recovery, for the help, for everything that needs to happen. The rebuilding, destroy and rebuild. This is the agenda. And they do this stuff systematically, month after month, year after year. And for the most part, nobody has a clue. But for years now, I've been educating about this, teaching about how these things work by perfect patterns, how locations are targeted because of their name gematria. Again, English is the language of the New World Order. And within the English language is this code. So, if you haven't read my book, please do. There's a whole lot more to this chapter about these redundant patterns. But to me, this is a really undeniable one. I don't know how anyone could ever deny this. Let's come back here to the more recent earthquake. Again, we're 107 and 55 are the numbers. And just in case you're new here, this is the Gematria calculator. Just want you to see that military and earthquake, a lot of overlap in 3 of the 4 ciphers. And don't forget, and just in case you are new here, these 4 ciphers, they're the alphabetic order, forwards and backwards with the rules of numerology. Again, I explain all this really clearly in the book. I explain it in a lot of videos. But the 4 ciphers, alphabetic order, forwards and backwards with the rules of numerology. All of these numbers that you see on the screen show up again and again in these rituals. So, with earthquake and military on the brain, don't forget the U.S. military, for the better part of a century, experimented with detonating highly explosive weapons called atomic and nuclear bombs by detonating them high in the sky to influence weather and underneath ground. And for what purpose? They did thousands of detonations. What were they trying to figure out about blowing up these big weapons in the ground? Jesse Ventura in one of his books came out and said that they used to plant these near fault lines for experiments. Think about, again, the Mexico City earthquake that just happened on the 32-year anniversary of the last one. Bomb equals 32. America 32, the nation that did all this experimentation. But here, let's move on and see what other things stand out. Against Sulawesi, the island devastated. Gematria 28 like quake, 107 the 28th prime. Sulawesi also has Gematria 53, so does earthquake when you take into account the master numerology of K. K, the 11th letter, the master number. K can be 2 or 11. When K is 11, earthquake goes from 44 to 53. Here in the base ciphers, we talked about how earthquake and military got that overlap with 44, plus 9 more, 53. These are the intricacies of the code. You don't need to know them because, really, if you just use the base cipher, you see enough, right? The 107 and 55 thing is enough. But you can always peel back the extra layers of the onion and see even more specifically why this was the target on the date it was. I notice this city's on the 119th meridian east. That's the all-seeing eye number. This story has the eye of the world right now. All this money being raised. Red Cross has up their charity. And understand, Red Cross is part of this evil cabal. How many times... And the media just even puts it in the people's faces, but they know that the people don't catch on. They just fall for the same tricks every time. You remember when Haiti got devastated years ago by the numbers? The Red Cross raised all that money, and then the news story was putting out how years had gone by and Red Cross still hadn't given any money to Haiti. Why are people still giving money to the Red Cross? The Red Cross, that's the symbol of the Knights Templar, the Masonic order. This stuff that is done, it's done by the Masons in high places, the Jesuits, the Knights Templar, the Scottish Rite, Knights of Malta, the Rosicrucians, etc., etc. Masons in high places control the world. They are the New World Order. They do this stuff as ritual. They do this stuff to, maintain power, build wealth, steal wealth from the populace, population control. How many people are really dead in this city? They first reported 48 people dead. They pulled that number straight from their numerological ass. The date it happened also had 48 numerology. Consider Freemason sums up to 48 in Hebrew and English. Illuminati equals 48. But they've continued to up the count. Now it's up to over 800. It's really probably a lot higher. Also, Indonesia in Gematria in the base ciphers sums to 153 and 54, like Jesuit orders, 54 and 153. And I want to show you Jesuit order in all 4 of the ciphers real quick. Notice the 54 and 72. The Jesuits have so much influence in this world. They are powerful. They're everywhere. They largely control the world of sports. Jose Canseco, remember this earthquake happened at 5:04. 54 is the baseball number 2. Jose Canseco was born July 2nd. July 2nd, a date that can be written 7/2 like 72, 54, 72. Jesuits, Masons in high places. I think you're getting what I'm saying. So Indonesia has the Jesuit order numbers. They said it was a 7.5 magnitude quake. 7.5. And, they can fudge these numbers however they want. Just know that Catholic Church and New World Order have Gematria 75. Again, this happened the day after the Jesuit order's birthday. And just to go back in time, in 1978, the Catholic Pope went to bed on the Jesuit order's birthday, never woke up, and was pronounced dead on September 28th in the year 78. This devastation comes September 28th. So they're not, the latest this morning is now death toll surpasses 830. If it's as bad as they say it was, there's probably a lot more people dead than 830. And there's stuff like this. You see how Nugroho said 71 foreigners were in the city. Just understand, they put all these numbers in the story as ritual. Big Catholic number there, 71. Again, the Jesuits, the Masons within the Catholic Church, this after the Jesuit order's birthday. So, don't be a coincidence theorist. Make a smart choice. Go out and read my book. You want to read that chapter, Weather Warfare by the Numbers, covers storm making by the numbers, earthquakes by the numbers, and again, it's all done by the same repetitive code. You read that chapter, you learn the code, and then you apply it to the next story, and you're going to be like, wow, the same thing again. Wow, the same thing again. Wow, the same thing again. And that's what I say in the book, too. When you read the book, you see just how redundant it all is. So, the book is 773 pages long. This part about Jose Canseco, if you want to get the book and skip to it, it's on page 528. That's where it starts. The part about Jose Canseco, the earthquake 107 days after his birthday, coming specifically at 5:04 p.m. In light of this being a 7.5 magnitude, just look at the overlap. This happened during the World Series 75. It was the Loma Prieta earthquake 75, New World Order 75, Catholic Church 75. For you baseball fans out there, look at that. Loma Prieta 162, baseball 162, Major League Baseball 162, MLB 162 games in a season. This code's used for many, many things. So much important information in this book. Weather warfare, just one of many important topics covered. And always the Red Cross scamming people's money after these manufactured things. I'm not saying don't be charitable. I'm just saying don't donate your money through these major players that advertise on TV. They're stealing it. They're not here to help people. They're here to theft from us all. The Red Cross, part of this network. It's the world of sports and the world of tragedy always coming together. Hurricane Harvey, and then the first pitcher to pitch in Houston after Harvey's Matt Harvey. All synced up with the World Series, how I predicted the World Series would be the Astros over the Dodgers last year. If you want to read what my critics say, just do a search for my name, Zachary K. Hubbard, like you can type in Vice Sports, for example. They wrote an article last year about me making fun of how I showed how the flooding in Houston and the purposefully set fires in Los Angeles scripted World Series. So Vice Sports writes this, everything that I said would happen came true by the exact numbers I talked about. Another good one, USA Today wrote an article about me for exposing how the news and Super Bowl 50, they always call me a conspiracy theorist in the headlines, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Truth speaker. I'm a conspiracy exposer. You know, not all conspiracies theory. Some conspiracies are very real, and we're exposing them here day after day. The conspiracy is very repetitive when you know the code. So we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. Pick up the book. It's linked in the description of every video.